Okay, so welcome back to the Rock Your Best Life podcast. With me today, I have the beautiful Kelly Hogan, who is an 11-year-old 11-year zero carb carnivore, and she has lost over 120 pounds, and she is one of the moderators on Zeroing in on Health, and has a Myzerocarblife on YouTube. Welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad to be able to sit down and talk to you today, because we don't hear about, or at least most people don't hear about somebody just eating meat for that long, and
Yeah.
and we want to talk about, like, what are the big health benefits that you've seen, and what are the big changes that you've experienced throughout this whole journey that you've been on.
Yeah, I think the surprising thing to most people is I get the question, like, yeah, right. How did you even hear about carnivore in 2009? Well, the answer is I didn't. I did not know carnivore was a thing at all um, until 2009. And I really started almost carnivore 5 years before that in 2004. But that was because of an amazing doctor that I had here in my hometown. He's retired now, he's in his 80s. But Dr. Dunlap here in my town kept having to see me repeatedly, even though I was only in my 20s. I was having to go to him a lot because I had boils that were turning to staph infections. And I kept having to go to get them lanced and drained. It was disgusting and horrible and embarrassing because it was mostly like on my backside and on my legs. And, here I was 25 years old, kind of a newlywed still at that point. And that's not where I wanted to be in life. I was 260 pounds. I didn't have any energy. I didn't even have really self-confidence. And I just didn't know why I kept getting these boils. I kept putting it on myself that it was like a hygiene thing. So I kept getting different soaps and trying to scrub more. And I thought, what is wrong with me? So my doctor, who was fun, he's still alive, he's just retired, but he said, "Oh, well, Miss Hogan, we're going to keep doing this until one of us dies,
Oh gosh.
or until you lose 100 pounds."
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, I cried because I had always had a weight problem and I had tried many, many different times to lose weight. And I had been successful for brief amounts of time. Like in high school, I would starve myself down for prom and then gain it all back. I fasted once for 12 days. And
Oh
then I
my
know
gosh.
fasting works for some people, but for me, I ate nonstop afterwards and I gained it all back. So I had tried different things before. I even did plant-based, not for years, but for months.
Mm-hmm.
Still did not work for me. I felt like garbage. All right. So when he says you got to lose 100 pounds, I cried. I said, I don't know how. I really have tried. And he said, well, I'd go ahead and tell you without doing a single test, you're inflamed. And that's why you're getting boils. And that's why you're having trouble with your weight. And the inflammation is coming from carbohydrates. Well, this was 2004.
Wow.
I said, I've heard of carbohydrates, but I don't even actually know what they are.
Yeah.
And so it was a combination of, it was 2004, so it's been a while. And I was only 25. And my parents, I grew up in like a low fat era. So everything was like blame the fat, blame the fat. I didn't know what this carb thing was about. So he told me, he said, for the next year, do not eat anything except for meat, eggs, cheese, and if you want some leafy greens, quote, it won't kill you.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So that's what I did. And it was almost a joke at that point because he said, I'll see you in a year. And it was like, ha ha, I'll probably see you in a few months because I was having to come in so often. I did not have a single boil after that. I did see him in 1 year. I had lost 80 pounds and he didn't even recognize me. He looked at the chart. He looked at me.
Yeah.
And that was the start. So it worked. It worked for me. I did not like leafy greens. So even though he gave me permission, I didn't eat a lot of that. I did have some pickles and green beans, but mostly meat for that year. And I did still have diet soda and some sugar-free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I lost a lot of weight and I was feeling pretty good for a long time. Well, I did this for 5 years, that plan, 5 years.
Okay.
And towards the end of that 5 years, I was getting exhausted. from the cravings for sweets. I never lost my sweet tooth. And
Yeah.
so I was eating mostly meat, but because of this diet soda, like I didn't know that was the ticket. The
Yeah.
problem, I didn't know that was the problem. So that's when 2009 I found the Carnivore Tribe, and it was not on Facebook yet because it was
Yeah.
'09. It was just a forum, and they said, "Oh my gosh, your results are amazing, and you're just eating meat." I was like, "I'm just eating meat." They said, "You feel amazing?" I was like, "I feel amazing." And they're like, "No cravings, right?" I was like, "No, I still totally have cravings. Is that a thing? Should I not have cravings?" And they said, "No, why are you still having cravings if you've done this for 5 years?" And that's when they found out about the diet soda, and they were like, "Well, there's your problem. Cut that out and you're good. You'll be golden." So I did, and I kept having the same results I was having already, except that now it was easy. It was so easy. I stopped like thinking about sugar all day long. So, I mean, I really powered through for 5 years. I was incredibly dedicated with a lot of willpower because it was working. And now for the last almost 12 years, it has been so much better. So when I talk to people about carnivore, I do tell them you can do it the hard
Mhm.
way. People think they're making it easier on themselves by keeping some of that stuff, but really to me, that was the hard way. Or cut it completely, and to me this is the easy way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is an incredible story and journey. So, what advice would you give people that are maybe kind of not believing, that just eating meat can solve all of these problems? Um,
Well, yeah, it's
and didn't you have some issues too with like infertility and stuff like
yes.
that?
So, all right. Firstly, I do believe that eating the world's most nutrient dense foods is going to help a lot of problems.
Hmm.
Whether it's skin, hair, fertility, autoimmune, if you're eating food instead of, say, Pop Tarts and Nutri-Grain bars, if you're eating food like eggs and meat that are full of all the nutrients we need, that's huge.
Yeah.
But in that 5 years where I was doing it the hard way, I made some mistakes because again, I had never heard of carnivore. I was just basing it off of one really important conversation with my doctor that I just ran with. What he didn't say to me was, you need to eat plenty of fat. And so
Mm.
there were times when I was eating really lean, and I don't mean for a day or two. I mean like consistently because I still had this fat phobia. And again, I was losing weight and feeling pretty good. But after about 3 years of eating that way, I kept getting lower and lower on the fat because in my
Mm.
mind, it was like, oh, I'm hitting some plateaus. What can I do? What can I do? I must cut out the fat. That's a really bad idea. So I lost my menstrual cycle, just stopped completely. And I wasn't worried
Oh.
about it for a long time. It was like, oh, well, okay, I'll save some money on tampons. It was not a
Oh
big deal
gosh, yeah.
because I know now I'm working towards health and encouraging people to do that. But at
Yeah.
that point, I was in my 20s and basically just didn't want boils and didn't want to be obese. So it was like, well, that's weird. Wonder what happened to my period. Oh, well. Then after a couple years went by, I was like, I think I want to start a family. Well, that's going to be a challenge because
Yeah.
I have no period. So
Yes.
at that point, it became like, I wonder, how do you get your period back?
Oh my yeah.
Yeah. I haven't really thought about this. So the carnivore folks, they really did help me and said, okay, I was doing a lot of cardio at that point too, a lot of cardio.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were like, okay, number one, you've got to relax. Your body thinks you're being chased for 2 hours per day.
Yeah.
Secondly, all of this chicken you're eating, stop. You need some fatty beef. Thirdly, cut out those sweeteners and you're going to get freedom. So I did those three things. And it
Okay.
took several months. Well, it didn't take several months to feel better. Almost instantly, like life came back into me. My eyes had really
Yeah.
started to look kind of sunken and kind of buggy looking, actually, like dark around my eyes, but buggy. I just
Mhm.
didn't look good. So I'd lost weight, but I wasn't looking good. And they said, if you do those three things, I bet you'll get your cycle back. You'll get pregnant. And so that was October when I met them. And immediately I took their advice starting October 23rd. And then around July 1st was when I got pregnant. And then I've had three carnivore pregnancies. And my cycle, other than breastfeeding, my cycle has
Mhm.
been normal ever since. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, how did your carnivore pregnancies feel? Like, did you have any issues with like a lot of us have, like morning sickness
Right.
and we have a lot of pain and of course the normal pregnancy stuff, but how was that?
Well, I never had some of the more common issues, which would be from, I know a lot of moms, constipation,
Mhm.
um, hold on, hemorrhoids. I never
Oh
had
yeah.
any of those issues. My doctor kept
Yeah.
saying, "You are not eating any fiber. You're probably going to have some serious hemorrhoid issues." I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, that sounds horrible." I didn't have any of that because I was already well adjusted to the diet before that started. So
Oh
my
yeah.
my bowels were good. I did not have any morning sickness. In fact, the last time, but that's not surprising because the last time I threw up was the fifth grade. I'm just
Oh.
not, I'm just
Lucky
not a puker,
lady.
not a puker. But I
Yeah.
didn't have that. I did have meat aversions though during the first trimester,
Yeah.
all three times. So I kind of had to baby myself. I would, instead of eating steaks like I loved, I no longer
Mhm.
love them. So I would have burger patties, but with cheese, mustard, hot sauce, basically, just so I didn't taste the meat. And I know that was a horrible thing to say because I'm a carnivore.
Well,
Didn't
I've
matter,
heard
but
that's pretty common
it
though.
is. It
Even like
is.
Vanessa was talking about that. She just had a baby,
Yep.
and she was even talking that she couldn't do it. She couldn't eat
Yeah.
beef for a little while. Um,
It's horrible and it makes no sense to me. Like biologically, why on earth would your body reject something that's so good for you? I
uh-huh.
don't know. But I did
Yeah.
manage to stick with it. During my first pregnancy, I did have some pickles. During
Hmm.
my third pregnancy, I did have peanuts. Not a lot because I got really itchy in weird
Yeah.
places. But I did have some peanuts. But other than that, I did stay only meat. I just had to make adjustments. I had a lot of scrambled eggs. Eggs
Yeah.
like tasted good to me. And there were times where it was about the only thing that tasted good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we just have to kind of listen to what our body wants and needs, and especially
Yeah.
during pregnancy.
Yes. And I won't
So,
I won't say that I had, by the way, I know it would be very tempting right now to say that everything was perfect. And I did end up with three like smart, beautiful, sweet babies. I know everybody thinks theirs are, but seriously, mine
yeah.
are.
No, your babies are
I'm
very
just kidding.
smart.
They're
I
good,
know. I think
good
my
kids.
babies, even my son and then my fur babies, they're all smart and beautiful.
Yes, that's right. That's how all mamas should feel. And their births were not perfect.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, is it the fault of the diet? And I think sometimes like
No.
babies are terrible at being born sometimes.
Well,
And so,
yeah.
yeah, I ended up still having to have C-sections because
Hmm.
my first one was kind of a rushed emergency C-section. They wanted me to have the rest that way. So I don't know. I want people to know it's very possible to stick to your keto or carnivore diet while you're pregnant. And it will probably help with a lot of things, but it may
Hmm.
not make, every hope and dream for your birth plan go perfectly. But I did come out of it with three babies, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, that's the important part. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's sometimes with our bodies, there's just some physiological things that are gonna, happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Um, well, what tools or supports did were you able to use in the beginning of your journey? Like what helped you besides the forums? Was there anything or anybody around you that was helping you or?
No, the forums were huge. They were all I had. So I had that doctor's visit and then I would go back and see him once a year. I never had to go for issues between, but I would still go for my yearly checkup. I try to even still, even when I'm feeling perfect, I still go in for my yearly blood work. So I would go see him once a year and he would
Yeah.
say encouraging things to me, but that did not keep me going really. It sincerely was that online forum that is called Zeroing In on Health, and now it's a Facebook group. But back then it was
Yeah.
journals, so many journals. We would write,
Yeah.
I mean, all day, every day, just write to each other. And then, you'd have hundreds of comments back. It was a super tight group, and some of us still talk pretty regularly. it was
Yeah.
it was a really cool group, and that was the main thing that kept me going during those days. I did not have them for the first 5 years. I was really, like, on my own. I could read Atkins books, though, but see, the problem with that was it kept encouraging me to, like, climb this carb ladder.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like, why would we put the stuff back in that made us sick? You know?
right. It did not
I
work for
don't
me.
agree
I
with
tried
that.
going up a little bit, and I was like, "No, no, no, no. I do so much better at the bottom of this ladder." Yeah,
Yeah, especially with, when you have digestive issues and food sensitivities, like I do, like I'm pretty much mostly meat, and once in a while I might have a little vegetable, but not often,
yeah,
because I know how it makes me feel,
right.
and everyone's different, but just knowing how your body reacts.
Yeah.
And how did you navigate social events? Like going out, I'm sure you were still young, you're going out to events or something, how did you navigate that?
It was mostly not hard, especially on really low carb. And even now that I don't eat plants, most parties will have, pepperoni, cheese. I
Hmm.
typically eat something before I go out. So even if there's nothing, I'm not starving. If it's an
Yeah.
option to bring something, and I find that more and more nowadays, I don't know if it's the times
Yeah.
are changing or that my older group of, we're just getting older and this is how we roll. We
Yeah.
typically we bring something. It's a book club, bring something. So I'll bring a plate of bacon or something that I can eat too. Um, the only social situations that were really hard is if it's like a dinner party and you don't know what they're having and you don't know the person that well. I can really only think of one time it was super tricky. It was my husband's boss, well, like upper level coworker, and it was hard. And so I said, could you please just explain that I have some weird dietary issues and just ask what they're having and explain that I may just, have conversation if that's okay. And that there's no pressure to make anything special. I didn't want to put anybody out, but I also didn't want to be like, why is Kelly not eating? you know, and
Yeah.
it turns out they were having meat. For all I knew, they were vegan. I didn't know these people at all. There was something I could eat. It worked out fine. But most of the time, if it's a party where you're not sitting down at a table together, I find that it's really easy that nobody really cares, even if you're eating, or have a cheese cube once in a while and nobody really pays much attention.
Yeah, I find that to be true too. But yeah, I think times are kind of changing, thankfully, because
Yeah.
I in the beginning of my journey, yeah, I would go out to a restaurant and I would have to talk to the chef and ask all these questions,
Yeah.
like, is there a way I could just get the meat and a little vegetable?
Right.
Um, and now it's like you go to a place and you can get it low carb.
Yeah, I feel like in general, the world is a little more accommodating to just diets. Like,
Hmm.
it'll list gluten free. I'd never heard of that when I was a kid, but you go to a
Yeah.
menu now and it'll actually show gluten free options, peanut free options, what has soy. Like, I feel like people are just more cool with saying, I can't eat that. Like, great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, but in a way, it's kind of like a bad thing because that tells you that everybody's pretty much in a bad way with their sensitivities.
Yes. No, that's true. I
That
think there's
tells
a
you
reason.
that we have to
Yes.
do that because we've all been damaged.
Yes, that's true. Good point.
Um, oh, supplements or vitamins? What now along your journey, was there ever a need to take any of those, or do you
So
find anything helpful?
I've tried a couple of times. I used to have issue with just kind of random bouts of nighttime leg cramps.
Mm.
Oh, and I had it way before carnivore, even as a young adult, just before even starting low carb. My dad, horrible leg cramps. My grandpa, horrible. Like I just figured it runs in my family, but I kept trying to figure it out. So I have tried some magnesium and potassium, different things to try to fix that. Electrolytes for like
Mhm.
2 days. I found that those actually made it worse for me. I know some people get relief from that.
Yeah.
Um, for me, no matter what I did diet-wise, it seemed to have no effect. I could take something, no effect. Oh, I tried magnesium sprays, which really help a lot of people, no
Yeah.
effect. until I know you didn't ask about this, but I just throw it out there. I do not
Yeah.
get leg cramps. It's been almost a year. I think it'll be a year in September, 1st of October, since I started doing this. No leg cramps because I mouth tape at night. I kept thinking it was supplements, diet, but it's my breathing. I'm a mouth breather if I don't tape at night. And because I mouth breathe, I know that's sexy, but because
No, you know what? I think it's kind of it's interesting because I'm a mouth breather too. Yes.
so I would drool and snore and then get leg cramps. Well, now I put
Yeah.
one little piece of mouth tape across, and I know that's not sexy either. Well, maybe to some weirdos, but now I sleep well. I don't wake up feeling exhausted. I don't have cramps. So anyway, that was not a supplement issue for me, but I did try some in the process of getting to mouth tape.
Yeah.
I did not have digestive issues when I first started. I know that some people may need ox bile or some things to help their gut,
Yeah.
but I didn't struggle with that. And I had never even heard of ox bile back then, so I wouldn't have
Yeah.
known anyway. I did take a prenatal, just to like, I think I bought like a great value brand prenatal vitamin when I was pregnant. I do not know that that was necessary. In a
Mhm.
way, I wish I hadn't done it because I wish I could say I didn't supplement at all. But
Yeah.
I have a husband and a mother and an OB, and they
Yeah.
all three were like, come on, can't you just take a simple prenatal vitamin? Just a prenatal. Okay. So I did it. I didn't remember every day, but for the most part, I did take it. Other than that, I have not taken supplements at all. Just little bits of like trying to figure out the leg cramp thing, but never for long. Just
Mhm.
long enough to figure like, okay, this isn't helping.
Yeah. No, that's interesting with the mouth taping. I bought some mouth tape, but I haven't tried it yet. So now I'm
Um,
thinking I need to do it.
yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Like, who wants to
Yeah.
do that at night? I don't like being seen, even by just my husband with mouth tape, though he's very used to it
I'm
by
just
now.
afraid like I won't be able to breathe
I was afraid of that
out of my
too.
nose, you know.
Yeah. And it was very hard for me at first to go to sleep because you feel like you're breathing through a straw, or at least I did. Like, I'm not getting enough air. I want my mouth open.
Yeah.
But then my body has definitely adjusted. And now, even on nights when I forget it, my husband says that I don't snore like I used to. I think I have really trained myself to breathe
Well,
through my
that's what I've
nose.
heard is that you could use a mouth tape for a while and then it kind of
Yes.
trains your body to not breathe through your mouth. You know, you're supposed to
Yeah.
breathe through your nose, really.
Yes.
But
And I really think that mask wearing, and I'm not making any statements about mask wearing, except my statement
mhm.
is I had to wear one at work for 8 hours a day. So I
Yeah.
did. And I'm a teacher. It was not an option. And as I wore my mask, the more days into the school year I realized that I was holding my jaw kind of funny. Like, I was breathing more through my mouth than I normally would, just because maybe I was covered. And then secondly, I think you're just trying to get air in that thing.
Yeah, no, I didn't have to, thankfully I didn't have to wear a mask very often, only like going in stores or certain places
Yeah.
for like a short time, but I had a lot of trouble. Yeah, I had trouble breathing with that too.
So I think it made the mouth breathing issue worse. And that's when the leg cramps at night really kicked up. That's what caused me to like, okay, I've got to figure out some answers. And that's when I discovered mouth taping.
No, there's a whole science to the breathing too, you know.
Yeah. I think it's Nestor was his last name that wrote the
Yeah,
book Breath.
I have his book here. I haven't read the whole thing, but
Oh, there you
yeah,
go. I didn't even see that.
the breathe. Yeah, you should, anybody that wants to know more about the breath should get this. Yeah, I
Yeah.
need to finish that one.
I have not read it, but I just read enough about it to know I wanted to try it. So,
Yeah, and it's really interesting, and there's a lot of science in there. And he did an experiment with another guy, and he just did all this research and interviewed all these people, about the whole evolution of why we're mouth breathers now. It's not a good thing, and it's caused a lot of health issues for people, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see. And I think I first heard about you and the carnivore diet really like probably 2018.
Okay.
Because I was searching for answers for my health issues too, and I just want to know, like, what made you kind of become kind of an advocate for this way of eating, you know? Because
Well,
some
from the
people, like,
time,
they'll find a
yeah,
way of eating, they'll just be like going about their life and they'll just do the thing. But some people, like, you know, you and me, like, we want to kind of advocate for it because it's helped us so much.
yes. So from the time I first found my little tribe in 2009, we were journaling everything. So I was used to writing about it all day, every day, just writing, oh my gosh, I do feel better. And then the celebration, like literally the forum celebrated when I got my period. When they
Oh,
found out I
that's
was
awesome.
when they found out I was pregnant, it was such a huge deal. They threw a big meetup in my honor to come meet my first kid, Julia. And
Oh,
Charles Washington himself flew in to Charlotte for a big meetup. This was 2011.
oh wow.
Um, yeah, yeah, that's right. So I started carnivore October 2009, got pregnant in July 2010, and then she was born March 2011. So that's when, by then we knew each other. All of us carnivores knew each other really well, and it was a nice big turnout. Um, what was the question? Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh, why do I talk about it? No, I got it.
yeah.
I was already used to writing. And so then it didn't seem odd at all to be like, I'm going to write a blog about this. So I started blogging several years ago. And then from there, I was all the time. Then the forum moved over to Facebook, and we got a lot of people, especially when Dr. Baker first came out, like vocal with his book and everything. Then
Yeah.
Facebook exploded. So then I was typing all day, every day. I was an admin at Zeroing In on Health. So I was trying to answer questions and help people there. And then people just started asking, like, would you come on a podcast, or would you do a YouTube channel video with me? And I started doing some of those. And so then it seemed kind of a natural thing. 2020, January, I said, I think I want to start making some videos. It was also the
Yeah.
video aspect came in because my day job is I'm a music teacher, and I was already making videos of puppet shows
Oh,
all the time. Yeah, I do Duck and
fun.
Bird. Duck and Bird are the main characters in my puppet shows. So I was constantly making videos. I'd practiced editing. I knew what to do, but I told my husband, I was like, I'm getting kind of tired of talking about music. I really have such a much more interest in talking about meat. He's like, so make some meat videos. I said, okay. So that's
Yeah.
what I started doing.
Yeah, and you're amazing at it. I love your meat videos.
Thank you.
Well, they're so creative, especially the carnivore news, which is my favorite.
Thanks. That is my favorite to make
It's so
also.
fun, you know, and you make it just so fun and informational. And I love your alter ego,
Cal Cal. Thank you.
Cal Cal, so cute.
Girl, I had somebody ask for an interview the other day, and I said, sure, we'll set it up. And she said, now I know this is weird. This was a real thing, and I'm not going to say who it was. She said, I know this is weird, but could you do the interview as Cal Cal? No,
Oh my
no,
god,
I cannot actually do that. I'm
that's just
not an
too much.
actress. That is that's not who I am. I can practice lines that I write out and, do it in like 200 takes. It takes me a while to get there. That's not who I am.
Yeah, you
But
got to really get into that mood, right?
yes, I got to have my furry coat, the hat. Yeah.
No, that's cute. I love it.
Thanks.
And then, you know, most people want to know, like, with someone that's eaten this way for a long time, you know, of course, I don't know if you know these numbers right offhand, but, you know, some of your most recent lab work, what is that?
Yeah.
Some of those
Yeah.
numbers look like?
I just went. I've actually had some of these numbers checked more than once per year, and
Hmm.
it's partly stemmed from my own curiosity about America's medical system being obsessed with total cholesterol.
Oh, yeah.
And the more I get this checked, the the less I put into it. And I know that people already have said there's no correlation between that number and actual mortality. It turns out I don't think there's any correlation between that number and anything, because
Yeah.
I have eaten an all meat diet for 5 years plus. I mean, pretty much for 5 years. And
Hmm.
then legit only meat and eggs and a small amount of dairy for almost
Mhm.
12 years. So this is not because of dietary changes. That total cholesterol number is all over the place. And at my
Hmm.
recent doctor visit, which was probably 2 months ago, my doctor congratulated me. He's like, and this is not my awesome doctor, this was somebody new. He
Yeah.
said, well, you must have really made some impressive dietary changes. Nope. I've
Yeah.
changed nothing since our last visit. He said, well, that can't be true because your total cholesterol went from 220 to 170. No, I'm still eating only meat all day, every day, literally just meat. So I
Hmm.
do get it checked sometimes because I find it kind of fascinating. Also
Yeah.
because I'm trying to determine triglycerides for myself. I've seen a
Yeah.
correlation between drinking coffee can cause my
Oh.
triglycerides to go up, which is something
Oh.
that I've only heard said a few times. So I kind of wanted to test that.
Yeah.
My fasting insulin, I've had a lot of people ask about that because it has been so long since I've had carbs. So a year ago, well, a year and 3 months ago, it was 2.8, which I thought was pretty low.
Hmm.
And then just a few months ago, when I went for that lab work that I was just talking about, it was 1.8.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Wow. That's
okay,
super
that
low.
is some freaky low fasting insulin. I also do get my high sensitivity CRP checked to
Hmm.
determine about inflammation. I like seeing that number. Does it stay steady? Mine usually stays at 0.5. I have had it jump up to the highest I've seen on carnivore is 0.7. And that
Hmm.
was when I had a really, really bad sunburn. And I
Oh.
think I think that's
Oh
what it so
yeah.
you know
That would
what I mean?
explain
Like
it.
it's kind of fascinating when you take out the biggest variable of all, which is diet. My
Hmm.
diet stays the same to see what actually does make these numbers change because they're not, you would think they would be completely steady after being carnivore this long. Like nothing should
Yeah.
be changing. But some things do change. And I think it's fun to just toy around with it. Also, and it's because I discovered that the health department here in my county, the county health department, they will do my blood work out of pocket, but it's not that expensive.
Hmm.
Anytime I ask them to, and I don't need a doctor's note. So
Oh
now it's
really?
like,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
game on.
awesome.
Now I go for fun.
Yeah. No, I've been meaning to get mine checked again too.
Yeah.
Because I've never really gotten it checked, but when you get older ish, they want to get that checked. And then also, yeah, I got mine checked. Probably I had started carnivore, just strict carnivore in 2019, and I was probably maybe, I don't know, 6 months in when I got it checked. And my total cholesterol was like it was high. It was 268. But
Okay.
my triglycerides were like really low. They were like 35. And
Oh,
and that was the number I was really, yes.
it's beautiful.
But of
Yeah.
course, I don't really have anything to go off of. So yeah, I need to get that checked again so I can kind of look at that. I wasn't
And for
worried about
people,
the high number.
no, for people who ask me, what should I get checked? I don't know that you should or have to get anything checked. Honestly, if a person's body is giving all of the great feedback, I don't go because I think I have to. I don't go
Yeah.
because I'm worried that I'm dying. I feel really good. And I almost go to see, like, what does a really well functioning, healthy body reflect on paper? And I find that interesting.
Well, yeah, and actually, like we really want higher cholesterol. We don't want low
Yeah,
because
I
our
know.
brain
This, yeah,
needs
this
it.
last time when the doctor said 170, I was like ashamed. I said, what?
Yeah.
He said, that's wonderful. I said, that's very low. He's like, no, that's in range. I was like, no, that's very low for my standards. That's
Yeah.
not good.
Well, I mean,
But that's
once there's no science behind it, behind the way
no,
that they do it. And
no.
once you know not to really listen, but it's really hard for people that don't know, I guess,
Yes.
you know.
Also, my LDL was way down. I
Oh,
was so suspicious. I was like, are you sure that's my blood work? Because I typically have LDL above 100 and total cholesterol above 200. And he's
yeah.
like, I would think you would be happy about this, but he doesn't know me at all. So I was like,
Yes.
no, this is not
Yes.
my goal.
I know. And well, and I mean, you really have to work with a doctor that kind of knows, you know, they don't have to agree with it, but they know what kind of diet you
Yeah.
eat and how you feel. And it's really about that, because my doctor, she just kind of circled the high number and she didn't say anything. She's like,
Oh,
well,
that's nice.
yeah, but she knows that I'm working on my health, and
Yeah.
this is what makes me feel good.
Yeah, when I did have, I did see one doctor in between the one I have now and my amazing one that retired. And she was like a PA, and she gave me a really hard time because of my numbers at that point being cholesterol over 200 and LDL over 100. And so she suggested a statin. I was like,
Oh,
really? And so that's when I did tell her that I would be happy to take a CAC, coronary artery calcium scan.
yeah.
And so I went and did that, and of course it was 0, and so she
And
left me
that's the
alone.
true test. I've never had one
Yeah.
done, but
Yeah, just I told her, I said, if you're worried that I'm somehow like building something up in there, that I'm getting all gummed up, go check. It's easy.
yeah.
It out of pot. She said, well, you'll have to pay for it. It was like $140 out of pocket, which I know for
Oh,
some people it might be a lot, but it wasn't terrible. It took about 5 to 10 minutes. I literally just laid there, went through a little scan, and then they told me the results very quickly. So it was not hard.
yeah. Yeah, I think if anyone's ever worried about that they can just get that test done, and that'll squash all their worries.
Yes. Yes.
Well, is there any kind of backlash that you've experienced over the years throughout your journey?
Oh gosh, yes.
I'm sure there must be some, but is there anything that stands out that made you kind of maybe a little, kind of
Oh,
doubt what you were doing, I guess?
yes. Especially made me doubt talking about it. So I used to be a lot more vocal, and then I had a couple of years where I really wasn't. And it was because I think it was 3 main articles came out very close together. The Daily Mail ran an article on me and carnivore, goodhousekeeping.com, and those were the 2 worst. And then around that same time, Women's World magazine. That one, the backlash wasn't terrible, but it just all hit kind of at once. And it was like piles and piles of mail. Well, piles, it was email.
Yeah.
Massive amounts of email saying this woman is irresponsible. When people start dying of heart attacks because of her advice, she's going to feel different when she's getting sued. It
Oh
was
gosh.
very bad. She should have her children taken away because of
Oh.
doing this low carb thing and forcing it on them. Can you imagine what it's like when she needs to poop?
Oh my
Literally,
gosh.
my bowel movements were being discussed publicly on
Yeah.
goodhousekeeping.com, and it was too much. It was too much.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I think that one thread about my bowels had like
Hmm.
600 comments.
Oh my gosh.
It was ridiculous. And after I read through quite a bit of it, my husband kept saying, "Stop reading the comments," but I
Yeah.
couldn't look away. I couldn't look away for a long time. And the more I read it, I did not want to talk. Like I got really quiet. I stayed very visible and active in carnivore groups,
Hmm.
but not outside of that. And then it wasn't until 2015 was when I wrote the blog. And I think I took a pause somewhere in there after those articles, but I got back to it at some point and felt safe again. And then I went to Instagram with carnivore, not till the end of 2019, start of 2020 with the YouTube channel. And I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know. What's it like over on Instagram? And it turns out there were so many carnivores, and it's been like this happy, awesome place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's been
found that to
great.
be true, because I know at first I was a little because I just kept cutting things out of my diet, and it was like all I had left was meat that made me feel good.
Yes. Yes.
But like in my group of, people that were following me and people that I knew, I was afraid to talk about it in the beginning. I made like
Yeah.
a whole different Instagram account, because
I
I was like, okay, I want to share that this is helping me, but I don't want, and actually I haven't really gotten a lot of like hate or anything. But
Oh, the world now versus several years
yeah.
ago, in my experience, it is so much better. You might get a vegan once in a while, easy to block, move on. But as far as like being trolled by hundreds of civilians, it's so much
Yeah, I
better.
mean, I just well, in my mind, I'm thinking, why is it okay for some people to be just feed their children like vegan? In some countries, that's actually illegal.
Yeah,
I forget. I want to say Germany or something. I'm not sure. But it's okay to do that, but it's not okay to feed your child or yourself something that we've been eating since like the dawn of time.
exactly.
I
That's crazy.
mean,
And my kids aren't even total carnivores. They have some vegetables and limited amounts of fruit, but just the fact that I even alluded to like we don't eat sugar and grains
yeah.
at that point, minds were blown.
No, I
Child abuse.
when I heard that, I was so impressed. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." Because when you have to take that when they've already had it and it's already been allowed in and then you have to take it out, like I had to do with my son because he
Yeah.
was having ADHD, and all kind of focus issues. I had to take it out. It's so much harder. It really
I
is.
have heard that. I know I've heard that many times. And so I am really very thankful that I already was, eating this way before I had them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I know you've got to go, Kelly, so I'm going to wrap this up.
All right.
But I know I have so many more questions, but we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, ask me
Um,
back. I would love to. I've got 8 minutes
yeah.
before my group comes, and I'm going to go up and tuck my kids in before I start the
Yes.
next thing. But I'm really glad that you had me on, and I would be happy to come back anytime.
Yes. So now you said you're on Instagram, right? Where can people find you and find out, watch your videos and all that stuff?
On YouTube, it's Myzerocarblife, and on Instagram, Kelly_Hogan91.
Okay, and I will
Yeah.
put all your links in the show notes as well.
Okay. Well, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, so thanks for coming on, Kelly, and you have a great rest of your night.
Thanks. You too, Rosa. Bye bye.
Okay.